Come on. Hey, Anthony Melchiori back from Vegas here in our home studios. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I got Oculus.
Ooh, let's find out about that right after this.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey, everybody. Glenn Hausman here with the one, the only, the incredible Anthony Melchiori right over there. How you doing, brother?
Glenn, it is a pleasure to see you. It is a pleasure to know that you got back safely. It's just a pleasure to be in your presence.
It is a pleasure to be sort of in your presence. I enjoyed it much more when we were physically in the same room with each other last week, man.
So, yeah, well, yeah, that sounds a little weird. But so my friends at Porcelanosa, Andy asked me to do something for him to work with this program that we'll announce at some point. And so they sent me the Oculus classes, and I built my little avatar, or actually my daughter's boyfriend helped me. And then I did the boxing game. I did 3 rounds of boxing, and I sweated more than I sweat in the gym.
Right.
It was amazing. Have you ever done it? Have you ever done the Oculus VR thing?
No.
It's really cool, bro.
I've never even tried the Oculus one. I had tried a couple of VR things a few years ago when they were really coming into fashion before they kind of all vanished for a while, you know? But I thought it was pretty cool. But the weird thing to me is like you get so engaged in being in this virtual world, you don't know what's really around you in reality. And that could be kind of weird.
Because especially the boxing game, I almost punched the wall a couple of times. But they have they have a gate around you. So you set the perimeter. And if you go out of the perimeter, a wall comes up, so it knows not to go out of that wall. So that works really well.
That's very interesting. Sorry, Anthony.
Yeah, without the wall, you're going to fall down the stairs and kill yourself.
Yeah, that's not really a good idea.
I'd imagine the ER doctors have heard more than one story of somebody doing something on the Oculus and them hurting themselves.
All right, here he is. Our guest is here today. And I'm so relieved, Anthony, because today we got one of the best people ever. Now, this guy is really awesome, Anthony, because back when I was just a young podcaster and stuff like that, he says, yes, Glenn, I will talk to you. And I, of course, am talking about Marriott International's group president of Canada and the United States, Mr. Liam Brown. How are you, sir?
I don't know if anybody can. I cannot hear anybody. So,
well, we can hear you.
Check and make sure my mic is working.
Yep.
Well, we can definitely hear you.
You're in the show.
All right. I'm going to put you in the back room for 1 second. Give me the thumbs up.
I am using Chrome.
All right. Can you hear me? No. All right.
But can you hear me, Glenn?
Yes, sir.
You can.
Yep. All right. I'm going to remove you until you Suzanne, maybe you can help him backstage figure out which it is. So you and Suzanne can talk in the private chat box that you'll see there.
Isn't it great that, you know, in your career, you know, you work with people, you're nice to them, they're nice to you, your friends, business friends, and all of a sudden they become like king of the world?
I know. It's really kind
like our friend Shannon over at, you know, she was at Aria. She went into the tech field for a while, and now she's the vice president of operations over at the Resorts World. And I got to tell you, the Crockford is a great hotel. And I don't think we talked about it last week, but the service is amazing.
The service was absolutely amazing. It's funny you should say that because I was there on Friday when I did the Friday night audio show, and I had all these notes about how great the service was, and I wanted to talk about it. I totally forgot to.
Well, did I tell you about what happened when I was walking through the casino and the cocktail waitress? I was walking through the casino, and this young lady in this wonderful, beautiful, I did talk about Cintosh uniform.
Yes.
Beautiful apparel. And I said, where's the men's room? And I said, what a beautiful uniform you have on. She goes, oh, it's so comfortable. And she went on and on, and she walked me all the way to the bathroom. Right out, she said, here you go. Thank you very much. With a tray of drinks. She was the most pleasant. Everyone was pleasant. The concierge, the chef concierge, the front desk. They touched my room 3 or 4 times during the day. Everything that I needed, everything I wanted. And it really felt like the hotel business was back at a real level. And it's the first time I felt that in a while. So they had all the venues were open, all the restaurants were open. I can get 24-hour room service. I was really, really happy.
Also, those people rocked. They managed, and I want to thank Rory Gallagher, who did HR for getting the whole property ramped up. She just recently switched, Anthony, to a more community relations position. We're going to feature her again on the show from Resorts World soon enough. But what was really interesting was some of the people were like, hey, I worked at the Tower Suites over at Wynn, et cetera, and they really upped their thing. All right, Liam is ready to go. Liam Brown.
I hope I'm ready to go. Can you hear me?
Listen, man, I've never been ready to go my entire career, so I totally understand how you feel right there.
Well, this is always, user error in terms of dealing with the world we live in today, and Teams, Zoom, Google, everybody has a different program.
We realize no matter how important you are or how big of an organization you run, Zoom or being on these conferences always gets us. So
all right,
you're
now
forgiven.
I want to start off with a real hard question to get you oriented over here. Rory Gallagher, our friends over at Porcelanosa, Andy Pennington, says that you are probably a huge fan of Rory Gallagher. Is this true?
Absolutely, love Rory Gallagher. Rory Gallagher, one of the greatest guitarists that ever lived. He was from Macroom, County Cork.
Yeah,
and we lost him at far too young of an age. He was a great performer.
I heard that even Hendrix was inspired by him. Is that true?
Very much so. And the only reason he didn't, he just never wanted to come. He didn't like travel. It didn't want to come to him. I mean, he came to America several times, but I think he was very. I mean, he comes from a very small little village in West Cork, and very family-oriented Irish guy, and just like couldn't. I mean, a big disconnect coming to like LA or the music scene in the United States or whatever for a guy like that. So yeah, he was, but he was big. He was huge in Ireland.
Huh. I'd never heard of him before today, but I rest assured, Liam, the next time I see you in person, I will know the catalog.
All righty.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't hear about him, Glenn. You know everything.
It's really frustrating that there was a great guitarist that I was unfamiliar with, so I'm a little sad about that, Liam, but that's okay. Cause we're going to have fun. We're going to talk about what you're up to. Maybe to orient our folks a little bit. Could you explain exactly what group president is and how you kind of oversee everything in your area?
Yeah, well, I guess I am responsible for all of our operations in the US and Canada, all of our hotels, all of our brands. Report to Tony Capuano, who's our CEO. Obviously, the USA and Canada are very big in terms of our global footprint. We have about 70% of our rooms here in the US and Canada, our global rooms. And it is obviously a very important business for us. So I have a great team of folks who work for me, making it all happen from across all the brands and through all the tiers and all the various segments that we play in.
So how long have you been with Marriott?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How long have you been with Marriott?
32 years.
Ooh. So what was your first gig at Marriott?
My first gig at Marriott, I was general manager of the Courtyard by Marriott in Syracuse, New York. 129 rooms up there at Carrier Circle. I was told the gentleman I worked for at the time, his name was Craig Lambert, and I was actually I came to the United States to work for a small New England hotel company called Appleton Inns in 1989, and about 6 months after I started working for them, the owners decided to sell the company, and Marriott, of course, was in the builder and buyer of real estate at the time. So they bought the 5 hotels, converted them, 4 of them to Courtyards and Courtyard by Marriott and 1 to a Fairfield Inn. And Marriott very kindly kept me on. And Craig Lambert told me, I've got a great job for you. Very nice. He said, hey, the people up there are nice and cost of living is good. The only thing he never told me about was the weather. And being a guy from Ireland, I'd never experienced anything like the snow, the lake effect snow that they get in Syracuse. So I think the first winter we were up there, we had like 235 inches of snow.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was huge. I'd never seen it. We lived, there was a stop sign just like a 50 feet or so away from the house, 4-way stop. And the snow covered the top of the.
You're in Syracuse, all right.
Yeah, definitely. So,
did you ever have the opportunity of working in Manhattan?
No, never. Well, I had responsibility. I ended up being a regional for in the Northeast for various brands, and I never actually worked in Manhattan itself in terms of at the unit level. but I've had a lot of association with Manhattan over the years in terms of the various brands and that.
What was your favorite job?
Oh, yeah. I gotta say, any general manager job I was in, I have to. You look back at that and you say they were. I mean, you ran your business, you had your team, and you had the opportunity to make a difference every day, right? A guest would say, the answer is yes. What's the question to any of our guests? And I often think it is I think it's the best job in the industry, being a general manager. I always say, even though I haven't run a hotel in a long time, I always do say in my heart and soul, I am an operator, and that's my background. That's what I hearken back to and love, and
did you know
learn the best lessons in life from that perspective.
Did you know you loved it so much at the time, and was it a challenge for you personally to take that next leap and move into more of the executive type of ranks?
Listen, I loved it at the time. I used to run into work. I loved going. It was just I loved it. I never felt I ever had a bad day. Sure, things went wrong and whatever, but I never felt I had a bad day. But in terms of making a leap into other roles, I mean, I've always had the personal philosophy, and I tell all my team members the same thing. You need to push yourself out of your comfort zone, do things that are different, where you learn more, and hopefully be able to contribute more to the company over time. And personal development, I often think there's no such thing in life as standing still. You're either moving forwards or moving backwards. And yes, you can love a role and love what you've learned from it, and what you do each and every day, and making a difference. But it's also very important to continue to challenge yourself and to grow.
Who's your biggest influence in the business? Who impacted you the most?
I'll try a maitre d' I worked for in Ireland, a fellow by the name of Barney Nicholson, who was just a remarkable guy. I was just a young kid working when I first met Barney, I was probably 15 and a half, maybe. Right. And Barney was the maitre d' of this very, very nice restaurant in Dublin, and he was the master of it, right? He knew where to seat people, where not to seat people. It was a lot of the local movers and shakers used to eat there, and they might be in competition with another guy, so they didn't really want to see him. and at the end of the evening, Barney always got he got the handshake and the tip and all that, and everybody thought he was a wonderful guy. And Barney said to me, he used to always challenge me on food, wine, and there was a 3,000 bottle wine list in that place, and he would talk about all the various aspects of what a particular wine tastes like and how it should taste on the tongue and all that sort of good stuff. He was a remarkable foodie. But he used to say, he says, "What are you going to do with your life?" And I said, "Barney, I'd love your job." And he says, "You don't want my job." He said, "Liam, I left school at 12. I've exceeded all my expectations. You need to go to college, get yourself an education." And he said, "And go into hotel management. You'll do very well."
Wow.
And that was the man that did it for you, huh?
That was the man that did it for me, yeah. And I had great times with him, learned an awful lot. But there's been lots of, but I would say he's the first guy who comes to mind. But there's been many leaders here at Marriott who have all been very great mentors and supporters to me over time as well, to learn a lot from.
That's great. And I want to hear all about that, because Liam, one of the things that we're finding here is that folks that are interested in hospitality don't understand the full opportunity that they have for their careers, a big career arc to get to somewhere like you had. But before we get into that, fellow countryman John Foley says, how much do you miss Ireland?
Oh, I miss Ireland an awful lot, John, but I have the great advantage to be able, well, except for COVID, I've had the great advantage to be able to go back to Ireland every year. And my wife is Irish too, so she's one of 9, I'm one of 5, and we still have lots of family back there. So when my kids were young, Lillian would take the kids, and she would go to Ireland for the whole summer, and I'd when they were out of school, and I'd go for the last couple of weeks. or so before the kids went back to school and whatever. So I've had the wonderful ability to say, you know, I have two homes. I'd also, when I'm leaving the US, hey, I'm going home on holidays, on vacation. And then when I'd be leaving Ireland, I'd say, well, I'm going home. So
well, I'll tell you, I was in Ireland a couple of years ago, and I had 10 things on my bucket list before I died. And thank God I achieved all of them. But I didn't know drinking a Guinness in an Irish pub was one of them. It was my 11th. It had to be on my list. It was one of the greatest moments of my life. I mean, drinking I'm not a beer drinker. I've never had Guinness before. But being in that pub, I was Irish the entire time I was in that pub. It was one of those moments like in life that you don't think about, you don't dream about, you don't think, you don't even consider. And then all of a sudden you walk out and you're like, that was really fun. Yeah. Just to watch him pour it, how long it took, how it tasted like a milkshake, how everybody in the pub was excited that it was my first Guinness. It was really great.
Yeah. Well, it is a work of art, Anthony, to pour a pint the correct way. But I'm delighted that was on your bucket list, and glad you had that.
Well, it wasn't, but I put it on my bucket list because I needed to know that that's something I did. And also we have a similar story. Is Fred Christina, who worked at the Plaza Hotel for 60 years as a maitre d', was an influence on me when I was about 26 years old. And same thing, like he was very influential. He ran the room. All the celebrities, everybody that came through the room knew Fred Christina. They had a plaque on the wall. He was featured on TV. Cool. 60 years in the same room.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah,
and there's some remarkable people like that in our industry, and they're really the heart and soul of the business. They're the rock stars of the business. They make it happen each and every day. They're
the smart ones.
Yeah.
They make all the tips, all the money, and they don't have as many headaches, and they have all the fun.
Right. They do. They do.
Liam, obviously you decided to take a different path and move your way up with corporate. So what was your first job that you got beyond the general manager position? And what was that like for you going from position to position to position until you've achieved your most recent role?
Well, it was regional director for Residence Inn in the Northeast. So, and that too was a wonderful job. I had a wonderful bunch of general managers who ran great hotels. But from a transition perspective, one of the challenges, of course, is these were people who were your peers, and they are now they're your team. They're and reporting to you. But they were remarkable supporters of mine. And this is going back into the 90s when Residence Inn was just, and still is, I believe, a rock star of a brand.
It really is.
In 1996, we ran in our region 90% occupancy for the year. We had, wow. I look back on, when you look back over your career and you say, hey, what are some of the great things you remember in terms of working with people and results you produced? 1996 always sticks in my head because it was just such a remarkable year in terms of performance. And guest satisfaction, market share, 90% occupancy, and the brand that year ran 86% occupancy. So
let's give people a little bit of history. What year did Marriott buy Residence Inn from Jack DeBoer? If you could,
1987.
It was that long before?
Yeah, 1987, and I think there was a little over 100 hotels in a combination of open hotels and hotels in the pipeline at the time. Now, I might be wrong on that number, but it was somewhere around that size.
Yeah. Well, nobody's going to be going back 30 years, Liam. And those specific numbers. But the point is that Marriott Residence Inn has become a formidable brand and way ahead of the curve that now it seems as if the entire industry is trying to get behind now with the extended stay phenomenon. But that's not our topic today. Where did you go after that regional manager position?
Well, I was a full service general manager. For a short stint, and then I was hired down by a fellow by the name of Joe Lavin to come down and work in franchising in HQ, and I remember saying to Joe, I said, I'm an operator. I know what a clean
Right.
hotel is, a well-run hotel is. I'm not so sure I know anything about franchising. And he said, Liam, he says, you've got great business skills, great communication skills. He said, he says, it's a franchise agreement. I can teach you everything you need to know about that.
But it must have been interesting because compared to where we are today, franchising was really in its infancy within the hospitality industry. I mean, you had just mentioned how Marriott was really still a owner operator before making that transition, I think in the late 1990s to be asset light.
Yeah, in the mid 90s, we did the asset light with the big Host transaction. We spun off Host. Yeah, I mean that was, and it was franchising was very much in its relative infancy in Marriott International as well.
Yeah.
And we were just beginning. I remember going to franchise conferences where we might have 150 or 200 people. And after spending, I remember like move forward 5 or 6 years. And a gentleman who was on the team, Sam Veneziano, said, hey, Liam, we might have 500 people at our conference this year. And I think the last franchise conference that we had for our select service and extended stay brands, we had something like 2,700 people at it. Now, that included obviously franchisees, exhibitors, big old trade show, all that sort of stuff, and a lot of Marriott folks. So that business has grown remarkably over the last. I came down here in Y2K 2000, right? So that's 20.
Right.
Yeah. So So from over the last 20 years, we've done remarkably well in the franchise space. We have some wonderful franchise partners who have helped us grow our business immensely.
Congratulations on the biggest understatement of 2020.
What's the thing that surprises you the most in the last 20 years about the hotel business? Like that, when we came in the hotel business, I came in my first job was in 1987 in Kansas City, Missouri. So we came in about the same time.
Yeah.
I've been running hotels for over 30 years. I've seen a lot of things that surprised me. What has surprised you being really in the forefront of Marriott and really seeing it firsthand from every level, from operations, franchise, from being the guy running Marriott in North America? What stands out?
Well, I would say, I often think too how remarkably the fundamentals and the basics of the business remain the same, right? In terms of, service, great guest service, doing, giving people what they want, when they want it, how they want it. But I think in terms of the greatest change, I think it's just the remarkable distribution we have and the ability to grow in our business, number one. Tech, more and more important. I mean, if you remember, Anthony, the old days you used to hide sockets, right? Plugs. And as a business, I think sometimes we've been a little bit slow to respond to external trends. And you'd have customers come. I have to get down on my knees to plug in my laptop. Yeah. And as people, I remember I would arrive in a hotel. Well, I remember we didn't have cell phones, right? So you would get off when you think about how the landscape has changed in the world today from a tech perspective, you would get off an airplane. There was always a bank of phones.
Right.
You would go check your voicemail. And then, after doing your tours for the day and whatever, you would plug in your laptop at night and hook it up to AOL. It would dial up. You'd pull up all your emails.
Got mail.
But that
was good, Glenn. I thought that really happened.
Yeah, you would go have dinner. You would go have dinner, and then when you came back, your emails would all be ready there for so long for it to download. So I think in terms of just the speed of everything, the velocity of how you interact with guests, immediate kind of responses, that I think has been the greatest change in our ability to provide our guests with the tech-enabled support that they want, and yet at the same time be still able to provide that level of personal engagement and personal service. So I think technology has changed, and simple little things. I mean, I remember in 1989, 90% of my rooms were smoking rooms, 10% were non-smoking.
Right.
Today, no smoking in
none of your hotels. I just heard last week when we were in Las Vegas, something like only 2% of all rooms are smoking, and they're probably all in casinos at this point. You know,
probably are, yeah. And,
Even smokers don't want smoking rooms.
Seriously.
No.
Do you remember, Liam? I think Marriott was the first one to do the no smoking rules, and everybody piled on. What a disaster this is going to be. I can't believe they're doing this. But sometimes to create innovation, you've got to take that chance. So what was that like at that time? Because, you know, the company knew that this is the way it was going. So how hard was it those first few days when everyone was pillorying you guys, but you already knew what the reality was going to be?
Well, I think if all you had to do is look at the data and say we had gone from 90% smoking rooms to 90% non-smoking.
Right.
And our biggest issue was, you know, if you would occasionally have somebody say, no, I want a non-smoking room, they got a smoking room. Yeah. So the data was all heading in the right direction. But yes, we were a little bit worried and concerned at the time when we got pilloried by everybody, and this is never going to work. And what about international guests, because they all smoke like fiends and all that sort of good stuff. But no, I mean, I think we just we felt we'd made a very, very good decision, and we just stuck to our guns, and then a lot of people, everybody piled on the other way and said, let's do it as well too. So I think it was a very innovative, bold statement. You know, let's go and be first on this, because that's the way the world is going.
Yeah. And, you know, I think in reference to what's changed in the last 30 years, for me, the biggest thing, and a lot of people think I'm crazy, but I love the fact that guests have the ability to write a comment online. Yeah. And people say that 90% of comments are incorrect, and it's the opposite. 99% of the comments are, you know, correct, and there are a few people that have nothing to do all day long. But I have found, you can ask me any hotel in New York City, and I guarantee you I can tell you what their reviews look like, because typically, you know, guests when they have great experience, they want to tell you about it when they have a bad experience. So I loved it. I loved the fact that I was critiqued immediately. My team was critiqued immediately. And I really think it made the hotel business better. Because if Marriott is doing it great, Hilton wants to do it. If they see it right there, and to be able to hold your general managers and your regionals accountable, I think it's great. And you can't throw out comment cards anymore in the garbage.
No, you're absolutely right, and it's so transparent. And you get your 4 stars, your 5 stars, or your 1 star. You're absolutely right. And one of the things that I do religiously is each and every day look at the guest sat scores, because it's that tech thing, the velocity, the speed with which you can get feedback. And if you're not listening to your guests, you know, you're doomed at the end of the day. And the data is all there. And we know that, we know ourselves in terms of running our business, and we can see if general managers and leaders are active in looking up what their scores are, taking action on their scores, and feeding them data that says, hey, if you do these 3 things, you'll move your guest sat by, 5 points, 3 points, 4 points, and whatever. But I think it's a remarkable tool that we have today, as opposed to asking a guest on the way out the door, if you just, how was your stay? It was great.
Thank you very much. I'm never coming back.
Right? Yeah, but to Anthony's point, I 97, 98% of reviews, I believe, are accurate. They're right. There are sometimes people who are, kind of might get a little over the top and whatever. But most feedback, you say, thank you for the feedback, and feedback is a gift.
And what I find is that one person that says something negative, everybody jumps on them online saying it's a great hotel, that person's just got too much time in their hands, or a lot of it is stuff that you can read and say, okay, it's a great hotel, but I can understand they have the problem with their reservation. The computer system went down. Yeah. This stuff happens. So as a consumer, you can relate and say, that's fine. I mean, they're a good hotel, but things do happen. And I really like the fact that, human nature, if you see a negative comment card and you're a housekeeper and you work really, really hard and you see a negative comment card, I don't care how good you are. If you see that negative comment card, it may not make its way to the front desk. Yeah. And same thing with general managers. I know general managers that used to throw their comment cards away so their regional wouldn't see it. So I love that it went immediately transparent, and we're all accountable to that. I'm accountable to the owner, and they're accountable to me. So I that's what I found. What do you think, Glenn? What do you think? Because we've been in the business, but you've really been,
Yep.
talking about the business for 150 years.
I will tell you what, I've never, ever in my entire hospitality traveling experience filled out an actual comment card. I figure for me, you should talk to me and have a conversation with me. And the only way I would theoretically write up some comments is if I really loved it in such an extreme way, I had to say something, or if I was so angry. I don't think that I would be in there with good, productive comments and statements about how you could improve your business. But Liam, a lot of people do that. So what is one thing that maybe Marriott learned from guest feedback and stuff like that you were able to say, that's a really good idea, let's implement that?
Well, I think it's catching the data. I mean, I think we there are numerous methods that we have to survey our guests and say what they're thinking about the product, the brand, the service, and all that sort of good stuff. And I think guest satisfaction surveys is just one. But we do a tremendous amount of surveying of data as to how they're, what do they really want? How are they feeling about our brands? Do they even understand our brands and our brands positioning? I think you have to be relentlessly focused on that from a brand perspective, to be trying to understand where people's heads are at, where they're going, what their expectations are. And I think guest satisfaction is just one piece of that. But you often, I gave the example, listening to feedback, people will say, stop hiding the basic stuff. Don't be hiding the plug down on the floor where I have to plug in my laptop, and have it incorporated in the lamp or the desk or whatever.
It took so long. It took so long for us to do that. I remember being in a 5-star hotel in California, and I will never go back to that hotel because I had to move the couch, and I was pissed.
Yeah. I will tell you what else annoys me. You go to the trouble of having these outlets in the room right next to the guest. Not you, Liam, not necessarily Marriott. I'm just saying generally speaking. And then they plug lamps and other stuff into those same exact outlets, and I can't use them. So I don't understand. I don't understand that one.
I think we've come a long way. Most of it is now built into the lamp, and it's right there by the bed. It's easy.
Again, to give you guys credit, you were the first ones that were doing it, I recall, by putting in the charger ports and all of that kind of stuff right into the desk. Yeah. And then I think the second iteration was this whole strip by the TV that also included the ability for you to put your laptop in there and view it on the television. So
everything, And then when you think about the evolution of devices as well, right? It used to be just one laptop. Now you can, people have an iPad. They have mom, dad, and the kids have their own iPad, and so from the leisure.
Yeah, I got my phone, my iPad, and my computer, and I demand them all to work simultaneously.
Yeah, so bandwidth, we have to continue to make sure that we have the right bandwidth for people. It goes back again to that velocity of change, and people want to have that act to be able to do what they want, when they want it, how they want, instantaneously.
Yep, for sure.
Now we just got to get the living room to have as many outlets, because I sit in the living room and I realize my phone's unplugged, is not charged, and I got to go sit on the bed because there's no plug in the living room. But Liam, I'm going to ask you a question. Everybody's having trouble finding people. I mean, it's no secret. We talk about it every day on the show. Are you having problems at the executive level finding people to fill executive and mid-executive positions?
No. I would say not to a degree that you would say is any more difficult than the norm. In terms of management and leadership positions, I would say no, with a few little caveats, perhaps in some, like if you look at some of the disciplines that we have, what we worry about and what I worry about is just in terms of all the challenges and turmoil that our business has been through over the last 20 months or so. When you have people who are finance, HR, global design, those kind of skills, those skills that are very transferable, is there a danger that we might lose them to some other, kind of business? But in terms of, I think we have a remarkable stable of leaders in development. I mean, if you're just stepping back from our best, 70% of our managers come from the hourly ranks. I think we have a remarkable focus on people first, education, development, training, presenting them with opportunities, developing them. Now, have we had challenges in terms of last summer, in terms of trying to hire people? Yes, but I think the worst is behind us. We've been hiring about a little over 1,000 people a week, and our numbers in terms of open positions is now very close to what it was in 2019 in terms of just normal turnover.
And that's fantastic considering we were still having employment issues back in 2019 before.
Yeah. Yes, we were. Yeah, it was a tough environment in 2019 to hire people too.
Yeah, I mean, if you recall, Liam, Chip Rogers of the American Hotel and Lodging Association said there were over 1 million positions open back then.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so I got a question from you coming from some of our viewers today. This revolves both culture and. Can you give us an update on Marriott's new headquarters in downtown Bethesda? I know you must know Dave Eisen. Will you require workers to be back full time? And then again, John is saying, hey, how do you maintain culture in a remote environment before you get back there?
Wow, there three. So the quick, we will be in our new headquarters in July of next year. It's all closed in, covered in. All the interior work is all underway.
Nice.
In terms of requiring people to be full time back at work, look. We have a dispersed workforce that are all across the country. So I think in terms of our evolution as a company, we began this. It doesn't matter where people are. We can have people who are remote. And we have, I mean, a ton of our folks are remote. They work out of their homes or a small regional office. They travel, all that sort of good stuff. So I don't, in terms of some of the bigger companies that had a regimented Monday to Friday kind of schedule and expectations around people being in the office. There are certainly jobs that require that you could say maybe do require people to be in the office on a day-to-day basis. But we have been very comfortable with the notion of remote work for many years. I mean, our focus was on let's have the right because there was a societal or a demographic trend of people. They weren't, 20 years ago, I would just get, or 25, 30 years ago, I'd get tapped on the shoulder and told, hey, you're moving to Boston or Connecticut or whatever and all that sort of good stuff. And you did it. Mm-hmm. But the world has changed today in terms of how people feel about where they live, where they want to live. And I think we have been very, very far-seeing, I think, in having a culture around, hey, what's most important is that we have the right people in the right job, and let's figure out how we make it work. And then in terms of the pandemic and requirements around work, we see ourselves more like hey, there'll be 3 days where you have to be in the office and, Monday, Friday, travel Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Monday, Tuesday, be in the office Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I think we're taking it much like the rest of the US is, or businesses are taking it in terms of that flexibility.
So how do you
maintain it? But culture, I honestly, culture, I think there is no substitute for people working together in person. You cannot. It's very hard to overcome the notion that we are fundamentally social animals at heart, right? You can get a good vibe from a Zoom's call, Teams call, but you're not getting the full picture. 80% of human communication is nonverbal. And then there's the element of, for younger people who are trying to grow their careers and develop mentors and understand what's going on. I was talking to a friend of mine who was on about just even doing deals. Mm-hmm. You can't get the essence of a deal just reading through the deal sheet. It is oftentimes that sidebar conversation outside the room when people have taken a break, where you're kind of thinking through the strategy of the negotiation points, what you're worried about, what your objectives are, what do you think the other side's objectives are. And those are real apprenticeships in terms of how people learn, develop, and grow and grow their skills. So I worry about if there's a perpetual or permanent kind of focus, which there won't be. That there is, especially for younger people who are trying to grow their career and learn and grow and develop. It's oftentimes that water cooler conversation, or let me go and get a quick cup of coffee with Joan or John, navigate through a particular issue or think through a particular issue.
Liam, I mentioned your current headquarters, and I see that actually happening. This is again pre-pandemic that I was down there, but you have areas where people kind of get together in whatever way that they want to communicate and kind of hang out for work.
Yeah, and that's where often the best collaboration and the best ideas come from. So we gotta be able to figure out how do you continue to make that happen.
Right.
Because culture is the foundation of, I think, any company's success, and we are particularly proud of our 90+ year history of people growth, development, opportunity, and creating an environment where people can thrive and grow.
Yep, Anthony.
I've had so many young people come over to me, or now older people, and say, "Do you remember when you said, that in passing, or you at lunch, or you said that thing?" And I'm like, "What thing?" And they tell me, "Oh, yeah, I remember." I don't remember it, but it was that moment that they needed to hear something, that I said something that they remember. And it's happened to me where people said things to me, and I'm like, "Wow, that's really profound that it's happened." But I do want to give Marriott a shout out, because our friend Manny, who's a friend of the show, and is a Marriott leader, she said during the pandemic, and even now, that the weekly meetings that she has, the wind keeps moving my camera. The meetings that she has, she still feels that the culture is alive, and there's meetings, I guess, where there's nothing on the agenda outside of, hey, let's catch up. And she really feels that the spirit, and she's been with you guys for over 30 years. She feels the spirit of Marriott is still there, and the culture is still there.
Well, that's very, very good to hear. And I hear the same thing. I mean, I think what our people have done, to help us navigate through this pandemic has been nothing short of remarkable. Just I always tell them every day, I said, no matter what's thrown at you, you all figure out how to make it happen, navigate your way through it. We've great resilience, and that resilience, I think, is a huge function of our culture. Just the ability that we know that people look out for one another, take care of one another, and kind of get us through whether it's Omicron or whatever might be happening. So
I'm going to hit you with a little bit more of a hardball question.
All right.
One of the things that I've heard, and me and Glenn have been traveling a ton, and I talk to people every day in the business, is that the hotel property level, people are struggling severely with employees, with having to work in the front lines in the pandemic, put their lives in jeopardy, closing restaurants, general managers, cleaning rooms. You've heard it, you've seen it, you know all the stories. And sometimes people say, I don't feel that the brands truly understand the war that we're facing on the front lines. What do you say to those people?
I would say, Anthony, I think, given my background and what I've done and where I've worked, I have the deepest empathy for what the folks are going through on a day-to-day basis, and I know each and every one of my team does. I mean, we worked on a number of things this year in terms of just take extra days off, added 3 days to people's vacation. Take care days. We've had a number of we had another big teams meeting, I guess, just talking about the whole issue of mental health and how people are under stress, and saying, re-clarifying for people, look, it is unacceptable that you be working 6 and 7 days. Managers, we gotta, what help do we need? So yeah, we had a tough summer. I will absolutely acknowledge that it was just tough to, find people, hire people, and all that sort of good stuff. But I think the most important thing is you can listen, have a deep empathy, and oftentimes just say thank you, and small little tokens of appreciation, help and go a long way. And I think we have come a long way. I mean, if you talk to our leaders today, our general managers, they say the worst is behind us. We were on our back foot last summer in terms of people and trying to hire people, and a resurgence in demand that frankly caught us a little bit by surprise. And we have heroes in the hotel who just come in and make it happen each and every day. Absolutely. And want to do it. And I think what we as leaders need to make sure we're giving them the support that they need to do the job. Mm-hmm. We added a whole bunch of HR resources, additional resources to help, kind of narrow the gap between posting a job and filling the job. Some of the block and tackle of helping people get started, hired, get them trained, get them up to speed, and then just having conversations about it and just saying thank you for all that they did.
And how do you see, talking about the worst behind us? And I've heard nothing but good things from Marriott. I think that's the truth. I'm not trying to kiss your behind, but I've heard nothing but good things. But the next variant that's coming down the pike. I have a revenue management business. I'm hearing that there are some cancellations. I have obviously friends that are still in the business, and I'm hearing, especially internationally in the 5-star and high 4-star hotels, they're starting to see cancellations. Where's Marriott? What are you seeing?
I think it's too early to tell. We had a great November, finished November very strong, exceeded our forecast. December continues to look strong with what's on the books. Now, have we seen a few cancellations on the group side for January? I think, like the rest of after the initial kind of reports on Omicron, I think people are taking a little bit more of a cautious. Let's wait and see. And if you think about it, Anthony and Glenn, we navigated through the Delta variant. It was what you might call a quarter step backwards. We continue to see strong leisure, good group, BT, business travel, special corporate, improving slowly. And that's what we continue to see. So I think over the next 2 weeks or next couple of weeks, as they understand, what does this Omicron variant mean? Is it more transmissible but less painful in terms of the symptoms, or is it a bad thing? I think it's just part of the world we live in. That again, back to the thing about we got to have resilience to see our way through this. As a human race, we'll see our way through it.
I'm telling you, I'm seeing a lot of that resilience, Liam. A lot of people seem over it now. Dr. Fauci was quoted yesterday on CNN State of the Union. Thus far, it does not look like there's a great degree of severity to it, meaning Omicron, but we just have to really be careful before we make any determinations that it is less severe or really doesn't cause any severe illnesses comparable to data. So it looks like a lot of fear up front, but probably more what you're talking about with what we dealt with Delta. Interestingly enough, Liam, I had heard anecdotally from a number of people, Las Vegas was about to lift that mask mandate, but then they heard about Omicron coming out, terrible sequel, by the way. And they said, we're just going to relax for a little bit and keep this in place, thinking it's best to leave things in place instead of having to put things back into place.
But that makes sense.
I think we're going to be in good shape for next year. And people that are canceling events in January and stuff like that are outliers. At least anecdotally based on what I'm seeing. I don't know about you, Liam, but I'm sure you've been traveling a whole lot and you're seeing that people are out there. I mean, obviously they're spending a lot of money in hotels right now, but when they're in the hotel environment, everybody seems to be like, I'm going to do what I need to do. And if I just got to wear a mask, well, then that's going to be the price of me getting to do what I want to do.
Yeah, there is an absolute. I mean, if you think about New York City over the last 6 months, it's been remarkable. I was up there in April and May, and I was thinking, how long might it take for New York City to come back?
Right.
But you can never bet against New York City or any of our big cities.
I couldn't walk down the street the other day in New York City. I literally had to just bail and go back in my hotel room. I was like, it's not worth it. It is packed.
Yeah. Every restaurant is packed and doing well, and they're doing the protocols. They're checking. I mean, they do require you to have your vaccine and wear a mask as you go in and all that sort of stuff.
The Broadway shows are absolutely talking about Times Square. How's the Mothership doing?
Marquis doing very well. Well, it's all relative. In terms of from the depths of the pandemic to where weekends are very, very good. And even weekdays are beginning to improve. So yeah, I mean, we continue to see improving strength in New York City. And the other big cities are still a little bit slow. DC is a little slow, Boston, Chicago, San Francisco, but getting better.
We walked through the Marriott, me and my friend Glenn over here. We walked through the new restaurant concept and oh my God!
Didn't they do a great job?
Beyond a great job. We make a living walking through hotels, and we were blown away. You're using this space perfectly for what it should have been used for many years. It's absolutely insane. And how is the food and beverage? Are you guys up and running there with the food and beverage?
Oh, we are. Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think 100% more or less since the. Well, we started off in July. I think and we've had, like everything we've had a few little missteps along the way, but everything has gone I think in the last few weeks, I think we have it more or less nailed.
That's great.
Cool. Now, Liam, I'm standing out here in front of the St. Regis in Aspen. Looks like over the summer, so I'm very lucky to have transported back myself to the summertime. But I'm curious as to when you're thinking about 22 and beyond from the franchising point of view, what are the brands you think have the most growth potential right now for Marriott?
Well, I'd have to say, I think in terms of growing, we continue to see an awful lot of interest in our brands. But if you think the broad picture, what has done remarkably well through this pandemic is luxury and resort.
Yep.
We have a significant number of beautiful resorts in our pipeline over the next couple of years, and I think growing interest in that. If you look at the performance of extended stay throughout the pandemic, that again just reinforces the strength of it. We've had a big over the last 4 months at our in terms of development activity, just an awful lot more closer to what 2019 levels were in terms of the number of deals that have been presented. So we have a lot of interest in development and growth. But we still have. I mean, I think our power brands continue to be our power brands, and as we navigate through the pandemic, I think that will continue to be the case because they have withstood it well and are coming back well.
How's Autograph doing? How's
Autograph continues to it's a home run. It continues to do really well in terms of growth and opportunities. I mean, it's our fastest growing full service brand from a global perspective.
Wow.
And just continues to do well, post
That's
great numbers.
Well, I don't know if you've seen the Algonquin. You guys are still, involved there.
Yeah, they did a lovely job on that too.
And that was a complete, I was just there the other day. It was you can't, it's two different people.
Yeah.
Before I used to run the Algonquin, and before, last 2 years and now, and they got it right. It looks great. I can't wait till the restaurant opens because it feels like the heartbeat's not running yet because the food and beverage is not open. But the design it was really hard to see them painting those walls white, but it works.
Yeah, it does. And then the kitchen is great too. Do you see all the work they did in the back of the house?
As a person that had nightmares in that kitchen for 2 years.
I can only imagine.
And one night we had fire on the subroof. Okay, I stepped in water moving a wire, almost electrocuted myself. As I'll just say, there was some activity between the chef and a waiter. It was very small. It was very discombobulated. But what a great job. Yeah, and the infrastructure in that building since I left has just, we did a great renovation there, but it was $3 million. The renovations that have been done in the last 15 years there are absolutely insane. And I really think it is a high-end 4.5-star hotel. And if you haven't been to the people used to go there to the Algonquin for the drinks, for the martini, for the vibe. Now you can actually go for the hotel room.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, I think it looks lovely. They did a great job on it. I was up there maybe 2.5 months ago.
I'll give you $1 if you bring back the Oak Room.
All right. Okay.
Oh, that's a good deal. All right, Liam, before we get to some final thoughts that you have, Dave has a good question that I want to pull up here. What is your fondest memory of Arne Sorensen, and what do you feel his lasting legacy and contribution is? As you guys know, he's the former CEO who passed away in February.
My fondest memory is really a personal one, which speaks to his warmth as a human being. My father passed away, and he gave me a call and said, "Hey, I want to come down and have a chat with you.
Yep.
Are you free?" So he actually came down to my office, and he just said, "I just want to find out how you're doing." And he said, and then he shared with his father had passed away, and he said, when after that, he says, "I used to call my mother every day." And he says, was at least a year, if not a year and a half. He says, I think it'd be good if you did that too, because he was always great at giving you advice. And I took that advice, but he was just just a very, very good human being. He could connect on the human level, and I think his lasting impression on our industry is that his guy was not afraid to. He did not shy away from the big issues. The cultural issues, and he would offer, you kind of, is it the role of a CEO, keep your head down and focused on your business? Of course it is, but there are sometimes things in society that you need to speak up about, and I think he was a very, very, he was not afraid to speak out,
right?
And on the issues of the day. And so I think that his lasting legacy is one. You should not be. When you perceive that or when you believe that from a right and wrong perspective something needs to be said, he's a guy he was a man who would speak up and was not afraid to speak up.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss if we don't mention your old colleague Mike Stengel, who retired, and the tragic event that happened to his son Andrew
Oh,
about a week or two ago, who passed away.
yeah, my
Horrible.
heart goes out to poor Mike. Very, very sad story. Very sad.
So, Mike, if you're listening, we our condolences, and we're thinking about you and your family.
We love you, Mike. Mike Stengel's one of the great hoteliers, one of the great New York hoteliers,
and one of the great humans.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know Michael very well, and I kind of met him on this podcast. He's been a fan of ours, and we've been a fan of his. He actually did a tribute to Arnie the day Arnie passed away on our show, and Mike is just. I was in an event in I think Atlanta or something, and he was there just a couple months ago, and you know, not only he's tall, but he's just this presence, you know, and he's retired and he still ran the entire room.
Yeah, and he knows everybody,
every single human being.
He knows everybody.
That's like he introduced me to the person that had the first autograph. I can't remember the gentleman out of Georgia.
Mr. Kessler.
Yes, he introduced me to Mr. Kessler. And Mr. Kessler actually got his attention and ran over. Yeah, just an amazing person. And can't imagine what he's going through. To lose his son the way he lost him is just so horrific.
Yep. All right, Liam, maybe let's end up on a happier note. Any final thoughts that you have? And maybe you could give a piece of advice to folks looking to one day achieve what you have achieved in the hospitality business.
I would just say that this is a wonderful business, one of the few businesses that you can learn from the ground up. And if you just think of the skill sets that you learn in terms of leading people, developing your leadership skills, learning a business, learning about the fundamentals of our business and what it means. I mean, you can run a department, run a hotel, run a region, run a brand, and you can really just grow and develop. And I'm just blessed for the opportunity that the hospitality industry has provided to me, and the many, 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 many wonderful people that I have worked with, and the great teams of people that have supported me in all my endeavors. If I have any measure of success, it's because I stand on their shoulders. So if any of them are listening, I just want to say, hey, thanks. It's been you've all been a remarkable part of my success.
Well, Liam,
I would just say it's a wonderful business.
You'll be successful. If you keep working, you'll be successful one day. But Liam, but what I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but one of the things I want to ask before I let you go, I think it's really important. You've seen every level of this business. Tell me a moment real quick about someone that you knew was a superstar, but you needed to pull over to the side because they were frustrated. Because listen, you work in a corporation. I know I couldn't work in a corporation too long without getting myself frustrated. And you had to pull them along and say, hey, this is what you need to be doing, and this is what you need to be thinking. I'm sure you've had more than one conversation with a person, maybe even yourself. What was the advice?
Oh, no, the advice. Listen, I think it's very, very important to. Most people have challenges in life in terms of their career because of some of the behavioral issues. It's not because of their smarts and their ability to learn the business. It's how they behave, how they interact with others. How do they inspire leadership? Can they work well with others? And do they have a vision that people will follow? And oftentimes those the majority of my conversations in terms of feedback we're having conversations with people based upon behavioral issues, how their team perceived them, how other people perceived them, and how it's critically important to understand, people are not going to follow you. You have to inspire followership. And people are not going to partner with you and work with them unless you're respectful of them and understanding of what their objectives are. And those kind of conversations I've had many, many times in my career with people about, hey, if you really want to be, you're a good person, you can pick up stuff, you know the business, but here's the kind of couple of issues you have just in terms of your own style and your own leadership style. And if you don't solve that, your career here is going to be, it'll be frustrating for you and frustrating for the people who work with you. And you hit the nail on the head when you said about it's that frustration that people have in the job themselves, or frustrations that other people have with them, whether they're their team, that their team of folks, or whether it's people that they're working with across discipline, across a big organization to figure out how to get stuff done.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago. It's my fault. It's always my fault. When I forget it's my fault, it's my fault.
That's
Because
exactly, yeah.
right. If you're sitting in that chair and you're running the brand, in North American Canada, you're running that brand. It's your fault. I mean, if the turn down service doesn't happen, or if there's a dirty room, somebody checks them in Cincinnati, Liam, it's your fault.
That's right. You have to have a sense of ownership. It's the plank in your own eye that you should be looking out for, not the faults of others.
Right.
Beautiful. Liam Brown, thank you so much. What a great conversation today.
I could talk to you all day, my friend.
I could, but yeah, I'll have to meet you in New York. We'll have a nice dinner and a beverage. We'll bring Glenn.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. I was coming anyway, so don't worry.
I bring Glenn everywhere.
All right, sounds like
a great accessory.
It was a real pleasure.
Have a great holiday, my friend.
Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Love Liam Brown.
I look at these people who've had these 30, 40-year careers in Marriott and other brands, and I want to be them in some aspects. I don't know if my personality would have allowed me to spend 30, 40 years with one brand. Don't answer for me, Glenn.
Well, you didn't know. I know the answer.
What's the answer, Glenn?
You could not have stayed with one brand for 40 years.
Why, Glenn? Why? Tell me my faults, Glenn.
I'm not going to tell you your faults. I just think you're a very driven human being who.
But Liam's driven. Liam running the whole damn thing.
Yeah, but he for his career path, he wanted to go in that direction. That's not the path you took, right? When you went to you ran the properties and then you started going to different properties because you wanted to do that. Then I think you had the opportunity with Tishman that I think you took to whatever level you could, because then you wanted to do the TV show and you had to leave that career path.
And don't forget the development project in Times Square, which I really like doing.
Right, exactly. The Stay Bridge, for example, which I think was the first one in the city.
My first real development from ground up. But yeah, you're right.
For you, Liam got his kicks of doing different things all within a vertical kind of thing. You did something here, you did something here, you did something here, over here, all in a.
I think if somebody, when I was a young man, if somebody came over to me in a brand and said, "Listen, shut up and follow me," I might have been able to do, because it was like the military when I was in the military. Right. I don't know. It's just really interesting to think of all the countries and all the places that they've traveled and all the things they've seen. Tremendous frustration. I mean, Liam just looks like he has not a care in the world. The man, right? And he has lots of concerns, but it looks like he doesn't do anything for a living. It's amazing. I love those kind of people.
Yes. You know what kind of people I love, Anthony? I love the people that subscribe to our audio podcast feeds on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you go, Stitcher, whatever they're called. I don't know what their sites are that you listen to it, but we are there. That's right. If you want to listen to us, just subscribe. He, of course, is at Anthony Hotels, and I am at Traveling Glenn.
Okay, Glenn.
Let's get out of here. What do you think?
Dude, think about who we just had on our show. When you say about podcasts and, how important our podcast is and the guests that we have, look who we just had on our show.
Yeah, I know. We rock.
It's amazing.
Man. I know. I love it. I freaking love doing this show. And I love doing this show with you. All right. Tomorrow, we're going to be speaking with a woman named Sylvia Longmire about Spin the Globe. We're going to be focused on accessibility. And this is a story that you want to hear. Then we're going to take a little detour out of the normal. And we've got your friend Louis Lombardi, a major actor, on the show on Wednesday.
Wow, that's good. I better make sure that I look at my calendar, because I think I had something come up on Wednesday, but I'll look it up.
And then on Thursday,
Louis Lombardi is a character actor you've seen on Sopranos, and just he loves food, he loves travel, and me and Glenn will be sitting in the corner, and Louis will be doing all the talking.
Excellent. A day I don't have to work too hard. And then on Thursday, we're going to be coming live from the Garden City Hotel, because we love doing things on location.
But Glenn, I would be remiss if, I know we got to go, if we do not talk about one of the best meals I know I've had in a very long time. Why don't you explain where we were and how good that it was? Me and you, and I felt like two kids in a playground.
It was really, really, really a great time going there. Resorts World is such a great property with so many cool places. We had a restaurant called Kusa Nori, which is a modern Japanese cuisine. They've got a teppanyaki grill, sushi, all sorts of different dishes from there. Gosh, I think we must eat like most of the menu that was over there at this point. But we didn't have to make any choices, because we had one of the coolest one of the coolest servers of all time. And we're just like, dude, whatever you think. And
again, he worked his way up from a runner. He worked himself up and worked his way into these great jobs. And I was laughing when you said we had everything on the menu. Tell them how we started talking about the menu, and
so
how
we did start in the menu where I was looking at the omakase. And for those of you who don't know, omakase, it's just chef selections. It's a multi-course meal. In this case, it was 6. I'm like, you know, Anthony, I think that's a little too steep. We don't need to spend that kind of money on it. I think we wound up spending 4 times as much.
And he was looking out because as everyone knows, he does all the work behind the scenes, and he does a lot of work, and I pay the dinner bill. So he was being kind for me and trying to be gentle, and then me and him went off the rails. But man, it was one of the best meals I've had. Remember the first thing that we had? We both looked at each other like, "Oh my God, that was like the greatest thing we've ever had in our life." What was it? I don't remember.
I don't either, but it was great.
It was some kind of beef.
We had Wagyu beef.
Yeah, but it was like a spoonful of it, and then even the thing that they gave us as a as a starter. Yeah. Oh my God, it was so good.
The butternut squash soup.
I asked for 2.
I know. And they're like, sure thing, sir. No problem. All right. So big tip.
Go to that restaurant if you happen to be in Vegas.
And if you don't feel like you want to spend that much money, go to this place, and they've got famous foods. It's a great food hall. And there's a guy there called Google Man, and he's out of Singapore, and he does something called char kiwi tiao, which is a noodle dish that you absolutely must try.
Oh, I got to try it next time I'm there.
Oh my God. It was one of the best noodle dishes I've ever had. They really fire it under this gas wok that's heated to like over 1,000 degrees. So you get that nice char on the rice noodles and stuff like that. It is freaking amazing.
Wow. That sounds good, buddy.
And you know why I did that? Because I've only got one life. So I want to blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
See you all tomorrow.